Google chat. I am so excited to see all the all the people from Australia to Arkansas to Canada. Some of you are, it looks like you're messaging here with us on the side, telling us that you're working on your rugs while you watch this. We are really excited today to have Liz give us some of her insight to her background. We'll get to take a peek of her studio. We'll see some pieces that she hasn't shown anybody as of yet. First, I want to make sure we thank our sponsors, Rug Hooking Magazine. It's their 25th anniversary. I don't know. You can click on their link up there on our chat room if you see it. If not, you can click on the link on our website. But go give them a thumbs up if you're on Facebook. It's fantastic to have a fiber magazine in business that long. We're a small community, and we just all have to support each other. And with that being said, yes, this will be a video live recorded and archived on our website. We're actually a magazine ourselves, and it was kind of fun because, okay, wait, I'm going to switch this out. Bear with us because I'm going to do some fancy footwork. Liz was actually in our very first issue of Fiber Art Now magazine back in 2011. So it is really wonderful to be able to be doing that in conjunction with our sponsor today, Rug Hooking Magazine. So please, while we're talking, type in questions, and I'll be happy to incorporate them into our conversation while we get going. And we click back and forth down below, and so you'll see us. Victoria is my fearless assistant, and she will be including some of the images for us as Liz begins to share things with us. So hang on while we click back and forth. All right, so Liz, there you are. Thank you very much for taking the time from snowy Connecticut. We'll get to see a little bit of snowy Connecticut when she takes us for a tour of her amazing studio. But I wanted to welcome you today. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Thank you to Rug Hooking for sponsoring the interview.
Yeah, it's pretty special that we all work together that way. So we've got lots of questions here, and I'm just going to jump right in. And I think I gave you some of these questions, but how much of your work is very much mixed media, and we were just curious on how much of it is based on materiality, exploring or experimenting with materials, and how much is it based on the meaning or the idea behind what you're creating?
Well, I do like to experiment, but most of it I think really starts with an idea or a concept, and then I try to find what's the best way to express that. So as you see when I go around my studio, I gather a lot of things. There's metal parts, and there's things from nature, and there's rug hooking supplies and fabric, and so I sort of keep all these things around me, and they come together. You know, sometimes it takes years, and sometimes months.
Right, right. We can understand that. I think Victoria's already got one of your pieces posted here in our website, on our page. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Those are called tall trees, and that's probably what most people are familiar with as far as my work. I have a series that I've been working on for probably 10 years, and it's a huge body of work, and they're all tree-related pieces, and they have to do with thoughts about the environment, environmental concerns, or relating humans to nature and the interaction between all of us. So I started, I asked you to put this one up first because I think that's sort of a good starting point, and then a lot of the other pieces that you're going to show people haven't seen before. And so I thought it would be an opportunity to talk about those, since it would be new to people who are familiar with my work.
So is there a method you use to get those shapes? You have some unusual shapes. Oh, that's good, Victoria. You have some unusual shapes for some of those pieces that you're doing. Is there, do you have
Well,
secrets,
actually,
ways to do it?
it's a pretty simple process for me. We're lucky that we have a local town newspaper, and they give away the ends of the rolls of the newsprint when they're done with them. So I have huge expanses of paper that I can roll out on the floor, and I always draw full scale, to the size, trying to imagine exactly what it is that I want to portray. And then usually I'm working on the floor and I have a design wall where I hang things up. And so the shapes start that way. And I keep in mind that, with rug hooking, things have to be sort of bold and not too detail oriented. And so that's pretty much how they come about. And I'm trying to push rug hooking, so that people don't think of rug hooking as just rugs, that they think of it as a technique that can be used to, explore other ideas and other possibilities.
Well, one article, our 6-page article in our magazine, our first issue, about you, talked about the tree skirts. I don't know, I just try to get this one up here. Keeps pulling it up. There we go. I don't know if you want to, is this considered one of your tree skirts that we had in that issue?
It is. It wasn't. I don't think I had made that one at that point. It's a
Yeah.
more recent piece. It's actually the most recent tree skirt, and it came about because here in Connecticut we have a big problem with Lyme disease. And for people who are not in this country or in other parts of the country where they don't have it, it's a tick-borne disease, and it takes this minuscule, tiny, like the head of a pin, little bug to bite you, and you get really, really ill. And there's a lot of different strains that are coming across right now. And so every time you get sick, it might be in a different way, and you don't always catch it right at first. So I love being outside and in my garden, and there have been summers where I haven't even been able to go outside. So I sit there and I sort of pine away at the window thinking, I'd love to be out there, but, I'm too paranoid to step out the door. So I thought, what can I do to sort of, make things a little bit more, comfortable for myself. And so I decided to make myself my own tree skirt. And this is a really heavy log, and so heavy actually that it has little wheels on the bottom so that I can move it. And the skirt around it is my idea of my own artificial turf. And it's made out of cashmere, recycled cashmere sweaters that I've gotten from another artist. And so I can sit on this stump and wiggle my toes in my own grass and sort of feel like I'm not totally, missing the season. And so there's a companion piece that goes with that.
Victoria will get that up there. Yeah. So, just how the environment affects your work from the inside, looking out. It's interesting how that that it's still going to impact you because you're such a person with a love of the outdoors. While she's getting that other piece up, that companion piece, tell about the sweaters that you use to incorporate that.
Well, it's a nice story. I was at a big craft show. I was participating in it, one of those shows where you set up your booth. And there was another artist who came in, and she said that she had a business where she made these beautiful recycled clothing for men and women using cashmere sweaters, and would I like to buy her scraps? And I sort of thought to myself, well, why would I pay money for somebody else's scraps? And she described what she had, and of course I'm always sort of curious and want to experiment. So I purchased a few of these great big bags, and so I made a few rugs out of them, and they're great. They're these beautiful pieces of cashmere, and so now I've got a little bit left, and I sparingly use it in some of these other pieces, but they're just so soft. And the nice thing about this was it was probably 2 years ago. I was doing another show. I think it was the Baltimore American Craft Council show, huge show. And she came into my booth again and she said, "Oh, you're here. I'm here." And she looked, and I had one of the rugs hanging in my booth that I had made with her materials. And so she started sending people from her booth to mine, and I started sending people from my booth to hers to see what we had both done with the same materials. It was really fun.
Oh, that's a great story. I don't know if we have there's the companion piece.
Okay, so this one is also about Lyme disease. And, when I was a kid and we would grow up outdoors, and you could roll around in the grass and you could walk around freely. Now I put on these great big rubber boots and tuck my pants in, even in the heat of the summer. And the thought of having a picnic in the park would be lovely, except, right now it just makes me paranoid just to even, to be out in the grass. So this is, imagining if I was out at a picnic now, it would be this huge expanse of a picnic blanket and this tempting grass all around the sides, which is the same cashmere. And it really is so luxurious that you just want to like put your hands into it and touch it.
Oh yeah, it's really really interesting, and so you would have this hanging on the wall in front of that last tree piece,
right?
That rolls around. Do all your tree skirts
nobody
roll
knows
around?
Except for us now.
Okay, okay. So do you feel that fiber artists are hyper focused on the quality of the materials? Compared to other artists, I don't know, you're talking about recycling the sweaters, and I'm always trying to find the best wool for some of the felt projects I work on.
I think so, but I think we're lucky, in a way. Like if you were a painter, you have a texture in your paint, but it's not like us where we can put our hands in and, touch things and they have a texture. And, there's just so many different appealing things that we can do with our materials.
Yeah.
I think be so much more experimental.
Right, right. Okay, well, I'm going to pull up this piece. You want to talk about this? Is so splendid. This is just so beautiful.
Yeah, this is called Early Spring Fiddleheads and Ferns, and it's an example of a rug that I'm really trying to push the boundaries of what we think of as a rug. So on the edges of the rug, you can see there's irregular edges, and I've cut into it. And when I was making it, it was one of these really bad winters that we had in Connecticut, and there were these just huge, huge icicles hanging, from all our windows. And I was just imagining what it would be like in spring. And I take a lot of photographs, but I never translate things literally. So I try to remember colors. So I just kept thinking of those fiddlehead ferns, they had this beautiful curl and just the different colors that I would imagine in it. And that's how the rug started. And so the whole thing, was drawn out in the newsprint, and I was about to start, and someone came to the house and brought me this beautiful piece of red wool. And I had not imagined red in the center, but that's how I started. So throughout the whole thing, it sort of threw a little bit of a monkey wrench into it, and I had to work with it. And it was an interesting piece to do. And so, I have all those memories of winter and my friend coming and all those things wrapped up into it.
I think we have detail of that piece. So, and while Victoria is getting that up, hello, Victoria. There was a question from somebody from Australia, Judy from Australia. This is a really interesting question. Rug hooking associated with craft and making floor rugs. How do you describe your tree stump? Is it, the rug mat? Is it sculptural, an installation piece? How do you get a gallery or exhibition to challenge its own preconceived definition? That's a good.
That's a great question, and it is a challenge. And I think they sort of straddle somewhere in between. So, but I think where I am going with it is that I want whoever's sitting on the piece or being around the piece, that they're interacting with it. And so they're becoming more interactive, even the ones where you're putting your feet in, your feet are moving. Like this early spring with the holes, I was imagining that there's a beautiful wooden floor underneath. And so you're seeing the floor as part of the rug. Usually we think of a rug just covering the floor, and it's meant to sort of just, move into the background or just be a part of the furnishings, where I really want you to interact with them a bit more.
We'll see one of those. Oh, there's a detail of your last piece. That's so beautiful. I think I could just leave this up and enjoy this on my laptop all day. It's just really interesting, and I'm hoping that everybody gets to see this while we're talking. And I wanted to continue with that. How many tree skirts have you done?
I think there's about a dozen. um, they're part of this larger, I'm imagining, exhibit, which I would love to have, and I'm still looking for the perfect place to have it because I have so much work right now. I could fill like a really huge museum room, I think. And I want it to be like an installation where you're going to walk in and just be surrounded by all these pieces, and they all have something to say, you know. So I think um, I think they work together. There's wall pieces, there's floor pieces, there's tree skirts, and so I look at it as a whole.
Well, I hope you can sign up for Liz's newsletter, and hopefully sometime you'll have that exhibit. And there's a couple of things I'd love to see as a complete exhibit that you do, and I'm hoping I get at least if nothing else, get a catalog of that, because that would be very powerful. Do you want to talk about going on with your feet on the floor piece?
Mm-hmm.
This is a great piece.
That one's called, oh, my mind is blanking out. Don't let the grass grow under your feet, which is a saying that a friend said to me, which, you know, means keep busy. And I imagine if you were a farmer, you're always busy, so it's a little tongue-in-cheek. And I inherited this milking stool from my husband's side of the family. And what's interesting about the stool is that it's slanted. So when you sit on it, your feet fit exactly in the same place every time, which I imagine is a good place to milk the cow. And so I thought that, you know, there really should be something there for your feet again. So again, there's the cashmere that you can interact with. And the rug is the shape of a cowhide. And then last year, this was exhibited for the first time at the Dairy Barn, which is in Athens, Ohio, which I thought was really fitting. So it's a fun piece, and you know, it's fun for me to watch, you know, different people sit down and wiggle their feet there, and you know, just enjoy it.
Right, that's true. That's it just calls you in to interact with that. And I've got Judy's back in with another good question. She likes the fact that you push the boundaries and wonders what is next in your thinking about new imaginings and a fiber whack on the side of the head. Now that must be a Australian.
Ask her to explain what that means.
Yeah, let's see if you can give us a little more detail on that, Judy. In the meantime, I'm going to click on to, there we go. I'm going to click on to our next one. Yeah, I'm sure we're gonna talk a little bit about what's coming up, if that's more of what you're thinking of, Judy. And why don't we take a minute and go around your studio?
Sure. Okay, I'm gonna disconnect you and hopefully go slow enough that you don't get.
Okay, everybody, please be mindful that we're not a camera. We're just a laptop.
So I'm walking to the center of my studio, and I'm going to start from there so that you can see, hopefully, the whole room. It's really tiny on my screen, so I apologize if I'm not showing you very accurately where I'm going. Okay, so this is the door coming into my studio, and up above I have books that span the whole top of the room, which is great because it gives me wall space. I also have to go up on a ladder, though, which makes it a little difficult sometimes. You know, it's not as convenient. And then down here, when you come in, I have, you know, storage. I have a lot of little boxes around my studio holding different kinds of things. And let's see. So I have the shades down today because it's really bright out there. There's a lot of snow. And I have terrariums that I've been working on for the last few years. And it's really intriguing to me to create these little environments, you know, under glass and see how I can maintain them. It's there. And then I'm hoping that I can show this to you without too much glare.
It looks good. It's great.
See that? Okay. So these are hanging up above our goat's beard, which I'll show you a close-up of in a few minutes, which is a plant that I've been cultivating for the last 3 years that I've harvested from the wild.
I can see the snow dropping in the background there.
Can you see my chickens?
Yes, your chicken coop's there. Oh my.
They're actually out in the snow today, so it can't be that cold.
That's so funny.
And then down below, I have a print table that is really handy. Can you see that?
Yes.
Down below, there's storage. I had this table made. And then on the top is a piece of industrial felt. It's really thick, and it's covered with a piece of muslin that's stapled down really tightly. And then there's a covering of muslin on top that I pin down that I can take off and wash. And I use this table, it's quite large, for ironing and blocking my rugs, and just, general purpose. It's a great thing to have.
Mm-hmm.
It's how you make a silkscreen table if you're printing yardage. Okay, so now let's see. All right, so then this corner of my studio has threads. The top box are pearl cotton threads that I use when I'm teaching penny rugs. And down below I have a whole cabinet full of regular thread and beads and buttons. And then, let's see if I can show you.
I don't know about any other artists watching this, but it gets me all excited to see such a great, colorful place full of all sorts of
these plastic
threads and things.
These plastic boxes are different flowers and plants that I dried during the summer. I spent quite a long time doing that, and I'll show you a couple of those too. And then I have that window in the back with an industrial sink underneath, which I use for soaking my wool and washing paintbrushes and things like that. And then I have my office corner back here, my computer, and oops, going the wrong way. And then my wool wall, which I'll try to get a little closer. And I'm not as tidy as some people. I don't color, have stacks all the same color. But I sort of like it that way because unexpected color combinations come to you that way. And then down below, I have this greenish table. Is a huge light table that my neighbor gave to me when he moved, and it took 5 really big, strong guys to get it in here, and it's fantastic. I can just flip a switch, and I can lay out almost a whole rug on there and trace it, in one fell swoop. And let's see, I'm going to bring you back a little bit so I can show you, I think, the room. Let's see.
Yeah, there we go.
This is like, here we go.
We're gonna, the camera award of the year here.
Oh, here we go. Okay, so I wanted to show you the back of my studio all at once if I could. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's pretty much, it's not a huge space, but it's packed, as you can see. And there's always, works in progress. So I have stacks everywhere of, different things that are I'm accumulating parts, put it that way.
And can you show us that design board that we had a sneak peek of yesterday?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm coming back to the center of the room again. And right now it has some blow-ups of some big trees, some aspen trees. Can you see that?
Yes, there we go.
It's a 9-foot ceiling, so I have a 9-foot wall there. It's not that wide, but most rugs I can hang up in there. But this particular piece that I started with the aspen trees, I realized is going to be really long and too large to work in here. So it's on hold, and I'm still pinning things on top of the trees, try to keep working. And eventually I'm hoping to rent, a space temporarily to work on some, larger projects.
Well, thank you for that tour. Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. Do you do any, where else do you find, studio space to work? Is there?
It's difficult where I live, and it's very expensive, and so I really haven't found anything yet. So I try to make do with with what I have, and so far it's working. Sometimes photographing my work has been a problem too. Finding a space that's large enough to do that. So it's an ongoing process.
Some of the questions here. What do you do with the dried flowers?
Well, let me show you some of them. Can you see them?
Oh, these are
beautiful hydrangeas, and I think these are really pretty spectacular too. These are violas. So I would go out every evening to my front yard where I had these. They just spring up every year, and would cut whatever was growing that day. So it took me all summer to collect that box. And I'll show you the goat spirit too. And the goat spirit, I just think, is so spectacular. And I don't know if you can tell on the computer, it's like a dandelion, but it's so much larger. And they're really, really fragile. And so it's been 3 years to accumulate enough that to finally make a piece. So that's on the drawing board. And
so how will that incorporate into a piece? What
well,
do you
the hydrangeas, I made a couple hydrangea bowls, which are very small, this past year, and they were fine. And now I feel like I need to take them to the next level, and I haven't quite figured that out yet. So my pile is sitting there, and I think about it. When I pass them every day, I get another idea. Sometimes I play with something, and eventually I think, it'll come.
Yeah, I'm going to thank you, Victoria. We're going to put this piece up. You want to talk about it? Because it's right in time.
Yeah, this one's called I Saw You Wave, which to me is a little humorous. And sometimes when I'm outside, maybe other people feel this too, you feel like there's some kind of a communication between the plants. And of course, we all see, the grass wave. But sometimes there'll even be an individual plant that's just doing this, So with this piece, we have a beautiful land trust near us, and it's a farm. And it has this beautiful road that meanders through the fields. And so I would walk there every day, and I would look at what was different every single day and see how the development of the grasses and the flowers and everything. And so when I found the day that I thought it was the right day to cut the grass, I picked certain pieces, and I brought them home and dried them and preserved them and made this box for it. So it's capturing sort of a moment in time. And it's sort of doing the same thing as my rugs. Like with my rugs, I'm trying to show parts of nature, what's inspiring me. And but they're big, bold pieces. And with these, it's capturing a moment in time. It's still the inspiration from nature, but it's a whole different thing. They're very, very fragile and very delicate, and I'm trying to capture that particular moment, not the feeling, that the rugs have.
Yeah, that's true. How do you work in your studio every day, or you go through different waves of time in your studio?
Well, I wish I did. There's a lot of paperwork, I think, and a lot of business things everybody has to take care of. So I probably spend more time on that than actually working. But sometimes I'll just say, I need a block of time, and I'll put everything aside, and maybe for a month. Once a year, I'll go in and just say that's studio time, and that's it.
That would be heaven.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about these? We'll show three pieces on here. It's the same series, but I'm going to talk a little bit about this piece. Can you hear me?
Which piece? I have the.
Do you see that? Oh, it's the bed on the rug and the tree.
Oh. Okay, I'm not seeing that. That one's called Collector of Words, I Dream in Color. And, every artist has to write artist statements, and it can be drudgery, and it can be difficult. And when I was starting out, I really felt like I was a horrible writer, and I had such a hard time with it. So I decided what I was going to do is start looking at magazines and newspapers, everything I was reading, even things I was listening to, and write down or cut out words and phrases that appealed to me. And I like ones especially that really bring a visual to mind. And so I have a whole folder of these words. And the piece is about, it's sort of a social commentary that, every day we're bombarded with, things that we have to do for work, or, things we have to do for our families, and the news is so horrible all the time. All these things are just always coming at us. And when you climb into bed at night, it's like this peaceful time. And, nobody can interrupt your thoughts. Nobody can tell you what to think. And so that's what the piece is about. So, the cover on that bed is flipped up a little bit, and it's showing you a few of the things that I'm thinking about. And there's a little picture frame that's empty that's hanging on the bed. And it's sort of saying, I can think about who and what I want to think about, and nobody needs to know. The tree is symbolic of, I've always wanted to have a bed where I had a huge skylight up above and I could just watch the stars. So it's about, it's about being peaceful and having time to think, your own thoughts, which I think everybody needs that time every day.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, look how beautiful.
And
those are swirling thoughts there, I think.
Yeah. And color is really important to me.
Right. So some questions, I love color. Color just makes my whole
Yeah.
life. Um, so some questions kind of go right into where I'd like to talk a little more is about getting your work initially in the gallery circuit. Do you have any thoughts on how artists and rug hookers should get their work out in the circuit, the gallery track?
Well, I'm probably not the best person to ask that question to because I haven't actually worked with that many galleries. I did a little bit when I got out of school and decided that that wasn't really the route I was going to take. And so I mostly exhibited at these large craft fairs and I guess, in shows. I enter a lot of shows, but I really haven't had gallery representation. I work with one gallery now. Um, So I don't know. I've been with a friend. We've been partners for the last 14 years, and we have been promoting rug hooking and trying to find venues that would show work. Mostly museums. Galleries that would have gallery shows, that kind of thing. And to be honest, it's a lot of work. It's exhausting. We had 10 shows, so I think we were successful.
Oh my, that's a lot. That's
It was a
quite a
lot.
bit.
It
Yeah.
was a lot. And our last one was just spectacular. And I really wish that the show had been able to travel more because it really, everybody's work in that show was just beyond belief, I think. So I don't know. I think that the thing to do is just to keep at it. I mean, that's sort of how I look at it. Just keep working, keep working. And I think personally that we're at a sort of a special time with rug hooking. I think that it's being acknowledged a bit more than it has in the past. And I think that we're going to have happen what happened with quilting at some point. They had this show at the Whitney, and all of a sudden it exploded. And so I think someday there's going to be somebody who's going to look at the rugs and look at the artists and see what great work they're doing, and it's going to happen for us too. So I think everybody just has to keep working, and it's going to happen.
Right. I think social media. I know not every artist enjoys the social media side, but what I'm seeing happen on Instagram, for example, make sure everybody that does Instagram tags fiber art now, because it helps everybody see and it inspires what's going on in our textile community. So, of course, we're really on Facebook, and that's what keeps us connected in so many ways. Yes, it is time consuming, but I find it also inspiring, some of the colors and things I see. So that's my social media plug, because it will help. It will open up. It'll make those galleries, because the galleries are all on social media to get us there. So if we can just keep sharing all that, I don't know.
I think when they see that there's interest, the people going to the museums to see the shows and, participating in events, then it makes them look and
Right.
they say, well, we need to be a part of this too.
Yeah, right. Well, I love this piece. So will you tell everybody what's working around this piece?
Sure. This is a really large piece. It's about my daughter. Her name is Chelsea, and it's part of another series. I seem to be working in a lot of series, and they're ongoing. This one I've been working on since, I think, like 2004, this particular series. And it's about women that I admire, and all the portraits are larger than life. And this particular piece was taken from a painting that my daughter did when she was in high school. It was a self-portrait. And I was just sort of curious about it at the time, how she portrayed herself. And just decided I loved the colors and that I was going to hook a portrait. So when she saw this, I guess it was probably last year that I finished it, she just said, wow, I can't believe that, because it really is huge. And to dye, all the wool is hand dyed in that piece. And so it was like huge amounts of this bright yellow and bright blue. And it was really intense to work on, but I think it came out pretty well. And it was exhibited last year in an art show. And it looked great, it fit right in there. So I was pleased.
Do you? How many artists do you have on that that you're hoping to collect?
I'm hoping 12. 12. Yeah.
Okay, so that's one exhibit. That's a book. I'm hoping that some publisher is listening and will make a book out of that. All 12 of those. That's really. I want to go back a little bit because I want to make sure I acknowledge some of these questions here on the side. On your piece with the bed, someone was asking, it looks like Marcia, how big was that piece?
It is, it's not a child-sized bed, and it's not really a doll size. I would say it's somewhere in between. The,
Mhm.
and so the whole piece, when you put the rug with it, it's a good size. I don't know. I'm bad at dimensions. They're on my website, but
Oh yeah, that's right.
the whole thing together, it takes up space on the floor.
Do you spend time applying for grants and things like that to keep funding going?
I've done very little, and I'm hoping to do more. I did get a great grant from state of Connecticut a few years ago, and recently I applied for one and thought, oh, this sounds really like it could be easy. And then I realized they picked like 3 people out of 2,000 or something. So I think, I have to learn how to do this and learn how to, what's realistic to apply for.
Yeah, it's
So
a challenge to do it all, but it's so exciting to get that. Someone's asking if you could talk a little bit about the hooks and the frames and backings that you use.
Sure. I like a pencil hook. Um, Simple. Before this, I just used the one that everybody uses, the Joan Moshimer little thing. So I just use a regular hook. And I learned on the Puritan frame, which is here, really basic, I guess, for most people. And I've tried other frames. They're coming out with all these great swivel frames and things now, and I can't do it. I'm used to working on my old frame, and that's what I do. And then the cutter that I have is the Townsend, which is a really beautiful. It's across the rope, so I won't show you that one. But if it's somebody who's beginning, there are these other cutters that are less expensive, and they work like pasta machines. You feed your roll through, and you turn the crank, and it makes like spaghetti or linguine out of it. But the Townsend cutter I really love. It cuts like butter, and if you're doing a lot of hooking, I would highly recommend investing in it.
Good. Well, thank you. Okay. Well, so I don't want to miss this series, this piece. Will you talk about it?
Well, yep. This is the last piece that I've done, large piece, I should say, and it's called True North, and it's about finding your destiny. And my daughter recently graduated from college, and she's a metalsmith and jewelry designer, and she's starting her career doing the same thing that I did almost 30 years ago, and asking for advice. And it sort of made me relive, the way I went about things and how the world has changed, and how can't even advise her on a lot of things now that, they're just so totally different. So anyway, the piece is about how much is chance, how much, some people say when you're born, you have a certain destiny and it's pre-planned. There's no changing that. Other people say it's the decisions that you make every day that, sort of determine your path. So I personally think that you're on your path and you veer off a little bit all the time. And when you hit right on, that's true north. And that's like, doesn't happen very often. It's when you go, wow, I can't believe, whatever it is happening. It's just so great. And then you sort of veer off again a little bit. So with this piece, the skirt or the rug underneath it is hooked. It has some vintage buttons on it. And it's all about chance, the roll of the dice, roulette, that kind of a thing. And the sculpture that hangs on the top is plastic. And then the picture you have up now with the paddles, those are more of those pieces of cashmere. They're hooked. And so you take the 2 paddles and you stroke the plastic in the center, and it floats. And so that's sort of true north. That's that feeling of euphoria that you get when you've hit right on with true north. So the piece was at our show at the University of Connecticut, the show that I was talking about a little while ago. And it received the Surface Design Award of Excellence from Lee Kogan, who's the curator emerita of the Folk Art Museum. And it's presently in an exhibit at the Katona Museum of Art. And that show was juried by a curator at the Museum of Modern Art in New York. So it feels good, you know, that
It should feel good. You
yeah,
put a
that
lot of hours and thought process, and it's so
for me
authentic.
for me though it's that hooking is recognized in some form too, though, you know, and like the show in Katona is a real art show. There's some really interesting work if anybody is close enough to go. It's in Katona, New York, and you know there's a lot of things with lights and you know interactive things, you know, this new technology that people are using, and so I don't know, it's pretty exciting.
Hmm. Someone asked if is your creative community mainly made up of hookers?
Um, Probably, I would say probably. You know, I know other people who are creative. I have a really good friend who's a landscape designer. You know, we have friends that are architects. So we have friends, you know, in various art. I have a really good friend who's a filmmaker. So there's
Oh, yeah, that's
a
true.
lot of other people too.
Uh-huh. Well, I noticed in your on your website and researching about your past that you used to be a quilter as well. So,
Yeah.
um, did some of those pieces, leftover fabric pieces, turn up in rugs?
Um, Not really the fabric, but some of the ideas, and sometimes I do combine the techniques.
Hmm.
And I compare a lot in my mind, you know, between the two mediums. I think when I started, art quilts were just starting. I mean, it was a new thing, and I feel like rug hooking is making the same journey as quilts, and so I compare in my mind a lot. You know, what's happened and what could happen.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, I'm going to tell everybody on the chat room here if you have any more questions, please post them because we're going to wrap up. I hate to keep an artist from creating and slowing it down, but I always like to ask this as a last question. What do you see the future of fiber arts and where are we headed?
I think that the fiber art is getting more sophisticated. The materials are you know, we're getting more high tech, and I think people's skills. Well, I see the skills going in two directions. I think some people are getting more skilled, and I think then there's another group that is not. Um, and I think that I think it's exciting. I think we're going in a good place, and I think it's going to be accepted more and more in the museums. And I think I see a lot of things out there right now that I think are really inspiring.
Well, yeah, I know working with a contemporary fiber art magazine, we certainly are seeing unbelievable ways that people are, reusing recycled materials and using materials in ways I'd never even thought of.
Mhm.
Um, and okay, so I'm going to wrap up with this last question here on the side from Michelle. Which artists have inspired you and influenced your work?
I think, well, the person who I admire most is Alexander Calder,
Mm,
because I love how whimsical his work was and is, and the shadows that a lot of his wire pieces in the mobiles, when you know, cast when they're in environments.
mm,
I also like Emily Carr and Harold Weston and Charles Birchfield, all the landscape painters who put a lot of expression into their work, and there's a lot of feeling, a lot of spirituality in them, and the colors. So I think those are probably um, the artists that inspire me the most.
great. Oh, one more question. Could you speak a little bit more about your dried flowers?
Um, well, I've been experimenting, I guess, you know, what's the best way to preserve them? You know, do you just hang them? I've been using silica gel
Right.
for some things, which
Mhm.
tends to flatten the petals and retains the color better. I've tried glycerin for some things, which, you know, I read was great, and the color, I did that with leaves and they just totally washed out. So it's experimental for me. And I don't know, I have these containers right now, and I know I can make something beautiful because they're just so beautiful in themselves. I'm just not sure exactly where they're going to go.
I think just having them surrounding your area just feels good, right? At least
Uh,
for me. Yeah. My
yeah.
books, I'll open my books and there'll be flowers that'll be have been pressed there from another lifetime, and I'm always surprised to find them too. And so, anything coming up in the future that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I did want to share a couple things. Textileartist.org. You can go on their website. They are producing. It's coming out in April. A 3D textile, um, 3D textile sculptural book, and it's going to be available on Kindle and through Kindle through Amazon and iTunes for iPad. And they have a whole list of artists who they've published, and I don't really know that much about the book. I'm going to have some of my work in it, so it's like an interview. They'll have some background and some questions like you've been asking me in there, and then photos of people's work. And let's see, in June, I'm going to be teaching a workshop at Peters Valley in Layton, New Jersey, and it's a design class for textiles. So any kind of textiles. So it should be really fun. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. So if anybody wants to join me, that would be great. And I think the last thing I wanted to say, which I think is really great for the rug hooking community, is that I have this really wonderful friend, Victoria, who's a fantastic filmmaker. And we are making a documentary on the art of rug hooking in general. So we're trying to document the community and just all the wonderful things that that rug hooking artists do. So if anybody has ideas that they want to email me, I'm not sure where it's going to go. We've just begun. We've been talking about it for years. So we're just in the beginning stages, and I think it's going to be great.
It's really exciting. Yeah, I mean, all the media using like we do, we're just trying these webinars just to keep some, video content out there. But to see a film on that, a documentary, would be absolutely thrilling.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking your time, Liz. It was a real treat to just kind of be with you on a snowy Sunday.
It's snowing out there. It's accumulating again. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate it. And thank you for asking me, Cami.
Yeah, Rug Hooking Magazine, thank you for being a sponsor. And how exciting it is to have, as I said, from Australia to Nova Scotia. It's pretty, it pretty much covers the whole globe on this one. So we're signing off. But you can always see all the other things on our website. All our archives from other artists are on the website too. So thank you very much, and remember, Fiber Art Now, we hope you subscribe to our magazine. Take care.